This week, we talk about where to find your photographs. Hi, everybody. This is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame. Now, one of the things I get asked about or commented a lot about is like if I'm interested in street photography, but I don't live in a big city with a lot of foot traffic, what do I do? And I think that's a realistic question to ask because not everybody lives in New York or Los Angeles, where you got these sort of iconic cities where an abundance of street photography happens. But I think that you'll find that street photography can happen anywhere, even if you don't have an area that's highly trafficked by people. I live in basically a suburb. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that oftentimes I'm making photographs of the most ordinary locations, but I'm just trying to look at them a little differently. I may not get a lot of the foot traffic that someone who lives in Manhattan would, but I still managed to find photographs. So instead of looking at your area and thinking about what it doesn't have, you may want to start looking at what it does have and consider what that provides you in terms of making an effective and interesting photograph, whether or not it fits into the designation of quote unquote street photography. So let's take a look at some pictures and get this going. All right, here we have a shot by Thomas Clark. This was created with a Fujifilm X100T at 1/500th of a second, f8 ISO 1000. So here's an image that was made somewhere here in the United States. The telltale sign is the mural with the eagle and the part of the American flag as a background. Now, what this shot has going for it, which any place in the world would, is a great quality of light. He was either shooting in the early morning or late afternoon, and you can tell by those long shadows that cut across the roadway and produce this sort of dappled light, not only on the roadway, but on the sidewalk and on the wall. It throws certain areas into bright highlight and other areas into shadow, creating this wonderful contrast between light and dark. And then there are shadows that are produced. We have the shadow of the street light on the wall, and just to the right of it, we have that figure of an older man who's sort of cut in half by the light and the shadow, and his own shadow is cast upon the wall as he's pulling the small wagon behind him. And this image, this scene, I think could be found anywhere, and it doesn't really need to be in the United States, but it looks like it's a suburban neighborhood. The building in the back on the far left appears to be a residence, and this may be some sort of market or storefront on the right. But this is a scene that we all could encounter if we probably didn't walk very far from our home. And even though this area probably doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, he was lucky enough to have this person move into the scene to help complement everything else that was happening in the frame. And in my own area, I don't get a lot of foot traffic, but because it's familiar to me and I walk through it or drive through it all the time, there is on occasion, someone walking through in the area. And if there's a great quality of light, I'm going to try and leverage it. And that's why it's important to sort of keep an eye out all the time, not just when you make a specific outing with a camera. For me, it's an everyday thing. So I will spot opportunities all the time, even in my own neighborhood, and make a photograph. I did it. I did it this morning. I got out of my car on my way to work and made a photograph because I love the quality of the light, which was very similar to the light here. And what works here with the light is not only the light and shadow, but also how it makes some of the colors pop, including the reds, the blues, the greens, the yellows. This dappled light does really marvelous things for the shot. And you also have some light coming from the inside of the building on the far right, which appears to be fluorescent lights. And instead of it going completely black, you get some details in the back. And I think this whole shot, as quiet as it is a really effective photograph. But it's an ordinary scene that you could find anywhere. He doesn't have to be in the middle of a busy city street in order to make a great photograph, because if you're looking and you're observing where light is, where shadow is, where color is, you'll be very surprised at what you'll find. Okay, here we have a shot by Jorn's Skav Hansen. This was created with a Huawei EML L29, which I assume is a smartphone. This was shot at a 1/17th of a second, 1.8 at ISO 6400. So this is an image that seems to have been shot at night. We have what seems to be a woman walking a dog, and the road and the sidewalk are covered in leaves. And then you have a strong light source in the back, which may be from a street light, which is rendering them not only in silhouette, but getting this really nice edge light around her hair. And you're getting these little pockets of light. We also have another light source to the left and a little higher, though we're not seeing it. You can tell there's another light source here as a result of the placement of the shadow. The light source way in the back may be illuminating that area back here on the roadway, but there has to be another light source much closer because the shadow is here. So the light is somewhere out here, and it's creating this really nice sort of dappled light at night, unlike the previous image that was shot in the day. And this image is not tack sharp. As a result of the slow shutter speed, there is going to be some camera shake and some blur, and it almost takes on a kind of painterly feel as a result. It more than likely was shot in color, but Jorn here made the decision to convert it over to black and white, which I think it was a solid one. This shot evokes a sense of mystery, of dread, of tension, of anxiety, and it's a scene that most people would never consider making a photograph in because they assume, hey, it's nighttime, there's no light, why would I want to put out a camera? And here he is doing it with a smartphone. And it results in a really effective photograph, tonally, and just the way it evokes a feeling in me when I look at it. And I'm going to assume that this was probably, again, one of those sort of neighborhoods where he and the person who was in the scene decided to take a walk, and he just so happened to pull out his camera and make this image. We kind of do all this stuff all the time, but how often do you think about, when I'm taking a walk, just for my daily constitutional, or walking my dog, or whatever, or even just running errands, having a camera, even if it's a smartphone, just to make a snap, just to see whether or not I can discover something interesting that can really inspire me to make a photograph. And I think this image and the image before really exemplify what's possible with things that are very, very close to home. Next, we have a shot by Sujen Rajbhandari. We don't have any XF data on this one other than the fact it was shot with a Fujifilm X-T2. Now, here we have a shot that could be anywhere. I have no idea whether it's in the United States, Southeast Asia, South America. You really can't tell. The facial features are almost indistinguishable in here. And what's happening is that Sujen here is photographing through glass that has water droplets or condensation on it, which diffuses the appearance of everything behind it. We can see the outline of the human figure. It seems to be a male. We can see a head of hair, eyebrows, chin, shoulders. Then we have these strips of fluorescent lights that are behind him. And then in the foreground, in the bottom half of the shot, is part of the building here, but it's also, we're seeing a reflection. We see some sort of light, this orange light or signage that is being reflected off of the surface here in the lower right-hand corner. Now, I'm not sure exactly where this is, but what's interesting about the shot is that it could be anywhere, and it evokes a sense of mystery and questions about what's happening here and all those things, because things aren't as clear-cut as they are in so many other street photographs. But I think it's a lovely, lovely image because it's playing with this scene in terms of light and shadow and color and line and shape and even gesture, the slight lilt of the head to the right, as if this person is reading something or trying to figure something out, really adds something to the frame. But all these graphic elements could exist anywhere. And this could have happened in a big city. It could have happened in a small town, at a laundromat. Who knows? But this image and all the other ones, eliminate the whole issue in terms of, oh, I have to be in a specific kind of exotic, high traffic, really congested location in order to make interesting street photographs. No, all that's really required is that you just observe carefully and you don't look at the world just literally and think about, oh, I need to have this kind of image in order for it to serve as an effective street photograph. I think all of these images serve as street photographs. And even though they may not fall into the sort of common motif that we see in so many street photographs, doesn't diminish them in the least. I think all of these photographers bring a really interesting eye to observing the world that's around them. Hope you found that helpful. Doing this every 2 weeks is a lot more manageable to me, so I hope to get back to it in another 2 weeks. I may do a few things differently, but now that I don't have to do it every week, I think it's going to make it a little easier for me to create a little more diversity on this channel. So I look forward to giving you that. And if you're in the Los Angeles area in November, I'm going to be teaching a 2-day workshop through Los Angeles Center of Photography. It's going to be on November 16th and 17th. And there I'm going to just basically teach my personal approach to street photography. And you can find out more by going to lacphoto.org. And also in December, I'm going to be in Japan teaching a workshop there with photographer George Nobechi. He lives and he loves Tokyo, Japan, where we're going to be based. And it's going to be a really interesting and intimate experience. This is limited to a small group of photographers. So if you've ever thought of spending time in Tokyo with a small group and really going on a very intimate and personal exploration of that great city, then join us. We got 2 slots available, and it would be great to have some of you there with me. So check it out. And if you want to find out more about the Candid Frame, you can go to thecandidframe.com, where I have my podcast where I interview photographers about their work and career. I'm at episode 488 or 489. I'm close to 500. But you can go there and you can listen to almost every episode that I've ever had. And we have an app available for the Candid Frame for both Android and iOS that you can download, which gives you complete access to the entire archive. And if you want to go to thecandidframe.com, which is right here, you can find all those resources and more. So thanks again for joining me. And if you like what you're seeing on this channel, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little bell notification so you can be notified the next time we upload a video. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.